I became quite ill with stomach problems and back problems, and it was probably the end of February, March, and I was a constant visitor down at the emergency department. They did some tests, but they couldn't find out what was wrong, and I came home, and they said you just have to put up with it. You're going to have to learn. It will get better, but it's going to take 4 to 6 weeks. And I came home here, and virtually I went from my bedroom to the couch, and I was crawling to the kitchen, and I had no energy, and coincidentally at the same time my son had to have his nose broken, and he had breathing difficulties, and he had to have his nose broken and reset. So he went into hospital for a couple of days, and I went down to pick him up, and we went down to pick up his prescriptions from the chemist, and my chemist took one look at me and said to my son, "You take your mother to the doctor right now." Immediately, because I was so pale. And so the doctor gave me a blood test, and they called me that night and said that my hemoglobin was down to 32 when it should have been 115. So I went into hospital. My stomach came up as if I had a football growing in the side of me. And when I got into hospital, I said to them, "You didn't see this before." And so that turned out to be a pseudocyst, and they set up to send me to Waikato Hospital, which they did. They transferred me over there, and I was due to have surgery on the Wednesday. Well, on the Tuesday, they ran some blood tests, and the doctor came in and said, "Well, look, we're going to do a bone marrow test," and he said the best possibility is that there'll be nothing wrong, and the worst possibility is that you could have leukemia. And they came back later in the day and they said, "Well, I'm sorry, it's the worst possibility. You've got leukemia, and we're going to send you up to Ward 25, which is the oncology unit." And so that's how I was diagnosed, because I'm the sort of person that I want to know. And I asked him what my chances were, what my prognosis was. Was I going to live, or did I have, so long before I died, or, And they told me at that time that it was a 38% chance of everything being okay. So it had a very high chance of it not being okay. But because I didn't have any other symptoms other than the pain with the cyst, I thought they'd got the diagnosis wrong. The treatment was fine. The chemotherapy is fine. I actually had thoughts in my mind before people told me what was going to happen. I had thoughts that I would actually be in front of a machine having microwaves blasted at me. But then it's not the actual chemotherapy is fine. It's the what would you call it? It's the side effects of the chemotherapy, and it's the frustrations of being in hospital and being hooked up. There were days there when I was actually hooked up to, I call it the machine, where you're actually hooked up and you're getting chemotherapy, or you're getting antibiotics, or you're getting I called it water, but it's not called water. It's saline. You're getting bags of saline. So some days you'd be hooked up there to 22 hours a day. Actually feeling really high and good, and for the first 2 cycles I actually said to the doctors, "Are you sure that I'm that sick? Because I feel so well. I feel like I'm taking up a bed for somebody else." And admittedly the 3rd and the 4th cycle were a lot tougher, but you kind of gauge how you're feeling by I mean, if your blood counts are all good, then you're feeling good. But there are other times where I wondered whether I would get down the hallway because I just didn't have the strength particularly in my legs. Most of my friends are here in Rotorua. My brother lived in Hamilton, and that was great because he'd pop in every couple of days and visit. But I found it frustrating. When I was here in Rotorua Hospital, my friends could just pop up, and whereas it became quite a financial strain for some of my friends. It's like, you know, it's $25 gas there and $25 back, and it takes up most of your day to go there and back. One of the things that I've found is that you do lose your energy levels. You wake up in the morning feeling full of energy and full of pep for the day, and you get going and you do different things, and after lunch, I don't know whether it's because your blood levels are down, but I have been known to have a nanny nap in the afternoon, only for, you know, an hour, but then I find that rejuvenates you again, and it's very difficult, but you've got to actually learn to pace yourself. And you have to say that you don't really care about a lot of things being done immediately or straight away. But the one thing that also you realise is you realise how many people actually have cancer. There's so many different types of cancer, but when you actually have it, you're talking to people that always know people that have cancer, or who have had it, or who have come through remission. And it's actually, what surprises me is that it's quite common. It's becoming sort of as common as people saying, well, I've had the flu. They say, somebody knows somebody that's had cancer, whatever type of cancer it may be. A lot more research is done into it to find out because they actually haven't got they can't give you any concrete evidence to say any one particular thing will give you cancer. But if they were to do more research, then obviously they'd be able to narrow the field down, and I think that would be it would be of benefit. Well, it would be of benefit to everybody, really.